Whenever.
Okay,
Yeah.
so maybe Eva, I'll let you introduce
well,
our speaker.
yes, I have to just 1 second for the how do you say the compte à rebours clock?
Set the
Timer,
countdown.
countdown.
The timer.
Okay, the countdown is starting. You can start now. And there was a sound. I didn't welcome you. Oh, just a minute. 1 minute. I didn't do my welcome talk, so I have stopped the
Timer, yeah?
yes. So Daniel and I are happy to be with you, Elena, during this Opera Strands presentation. We welcome you as a senior lecturer in the areas of English for specific purpose and call at UNED in Spain, an open university, if I got it right. Your current area of research is language MOOCs. And Elena, you will talk for 20 minutes, and after 15 minutes, you will hear a short signal, and after 20 minutes, a second one.
Okay.
Daniel, if you would like to explain the question and answer part, please.
Yeah, I'll just remind everyone that you can ask questions in writing in the Q&A section in Whova. That's where we will look for your questions. It's also possible, maybe if you've joined us directly on Zoom, to raise your hand and ask a question. We'll give you the floor to ask the question at the end of the talk if you want to do it that way. But if you're joining us on Whova, that might not be possible, but you can use the Q&A section to ask a question in writing, and I will relay those questions at the end of the talk. So without further ado, we can give the floor to you, Elena.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for attending my talk. My main field of research is language MOOCs, how you learn a language in a massive context. And I've been devoting my research to that since 2013. Actually, I created the language MOOC SIG for EUROCALL, and I'm the current chair. So that's where I feel comfortable. But a couple of years ago, for our teaching innovation projects at my university, the colleagues I normally work with and I decided that it was time to get out of our comfort zone and try other aspects of computer-assisted language learning in which we are interested. And one of those subfields that I always thought were really interesting was data-driven learning. And I didn't know much about it. I had attended conferences and learned a bit about it. So I thought it was a good opportunity to, at my university, there was a bit of proposals for teaching innovation projects. So I drafted something and I got funding, and this is what I'm going to present today. So if there's anyone in the audience that is an expert on data-driven learning, please be kind to me, because as I said, I'm not an expert. This is my first time learning about how it works and trying to implement it in my teaching practice. So I have entitled this presentation, Data-Driven Learning to Improve Writing in English for Professional Purposes, because that's one of the courses that I teach. So my university, UNED, is the biggest distance learning university in Spain, and it's similar to the Open University in Britain. We have over 200,000 students, so that's why we have to design everything on a massive scale. So the germ of this teaching innovation project, the initial idea was thinking about my teaching practice and how, on all the aspects that I cover, I wanted to build bridges between formal education and non-formal education, between the undergraduate courses that I teach and the master's programs that I have, and between teachers and students, because we are mainly in an online environment. We have some face-to-face tutorials, but most of the teaching and learning takes place online. So the project as such, the full title was Data-Driven Learning for Improving Written Proficiency in English, Pilot Experience in MOOCs, Bachelor and Master's degrees. And we had 5 main aims. We wanted to explore the possibilities of data-driven learning in improving the students' writing in English for specific purposes, and putting together undergraduate and master's students. And also, there was the opportunity of repurposing some software that had been developed at my university, but some other colleagues at the Faculty of Psychology. And they had developed this tool called G-Rubric, which provided personalized feedback on content-based subjects. And so they had tried this G-Rubric tool successfully in courses in psychology and in economics. But all these courses were delivered in Spanish. So the whole tool had been developed in Spanish. So we talked to the tool developers and suggested this idea about the project, and they were interested in getting on board and seeing how they could adapt this tool for language learning. Because our idea was to implement it in this subject related to English for specific purposes, in which the content is very important, much more important than in general English. A third aim was to start some sort of mentoring program. We have seen at our university that especially the undergraduate students that are in the first year, they are quite lost. That's that's fact. They don't know how to get organized. They don't know how to interact. They don't know how to socialize, and they feel quite lonely at some point. So we thought if we put together master students that are already experienced, and their language level, their English language level is much better, they would help them understand how this English online learning happens. Also, one of the courses that I teach in the master's program is called Open Language Learning. And in that course, we provide an overview of the different open technologies, open educational resources. We talk about MOOCs, all the possibilities that open education offers for a language learner. So I thought it was a great opportunity to get those master's students involved and make them act as mentors. And for them, they had something to gain as well, because they were going to be using this technology, this G-Rubric, which was open source software, and they were going to be involved in a MOOC as well. So they would see open language learning technologies in action. And finally, we had also been involved with the Language Center at my university, because a few years back, they asked us to create a MOOC for them. And that was already running. And so I thought it would be interesting to link that part of our university and see, offer our students in formal education that possibility of exploring non-formal and informal venues of learning a language, and also showing them that they can get accreditation for their language skills. So this was the whole idea, the aims. As you can see, it's quite ambitious and it has different strands. So it was a bit complex at the beginning to get it started. There are 3 important aspects related to the aims, and these are concepts that we think are very important in learning in general, in language learning in an online environment, and that's personalization, socialization, and contextualization. So they are linked to three of the aims that I have shown you in the previous slide. Personalization is linked to the second aim, adapting this G-rubric tool to offer personalized feedback in English for specific purposes. Socialization, linked to the third aim, initiating the mentoring program with the master's students and the undergraduate students. And contextualization, we were going to create a hybrid learning environment with the normal sort of Moodle platform that undergraduate students use, with the MOOC, and then getting them in touch with the language center, showing them the possibility of passing an exam and getting accreditation for their English. So the first thing that we did was get started with a literature review and learn about data-driven learning. So that was the first stage of the project, learning about the advances in language learning with linguistic data. I have a few of their references that were most useful for us, and learning how to, this identification of lexicogrammatical patterns supports effective language learning, and how it can, it's been proven by research that it can improve written production and enhance autonomous learning. So then going down to the G-rubric tool as such, it is an open source software that puts together data-driven learning and natural language processing to provide automated and personalized feedback to students. Now, if you go to the G-rubric website, you cannot download the software or create your username and all that on your own, and this is because the developers are the ones that want to monitor the database. But if you contact us, if you're interested in the tool, you can just email me and I'll get you in touch with the developers, and it is open source. And I will explain a little bit more about the English side to it, which is the part that we have developed in this project. So it's corpus-based. It's an automatic system that uses these semantic technologies. And what it does, we had to build a corpus related to a specific topic. I'll show you in the next few slides. The topic that was chosen was sustainable tourism, and I will explain why. So we built the corpus, and then we created what they call the golden answer. So the golden answer is the ideal sort of written production that the students should produce. So it has all the lexical items that should be included, the structure that they should follow, etc. So based on that, they get feedback. Yeah, it compares the student submission and this corpus-based model and the rubric that has been embedded within the system. So that's why it has the name G rubric. And then it gives them guidelines for improving the writing, and it focuses on the specialized linguistic content, which is characteristic of English for specific purposes. They can submit it up to 6 times, and they should pay attention to all the feedback that they are getting so that they don't make the same mistakes again and again. So the phases of the project were 2. The first one was last year. We developed a theoretical framework, and we adapted this tool. As I have said, it had initially been designed for Spanish. So we had the core, the skeleton of the tool, but we had to redo everything, all the different layers that were based on Spanish. They had to be redone. We had to create the learning activity based on the format. We chose the report format because it was one of the tasks that our students would have to do. And also, we had this language MOOC that, as I had said, we had been commissioned by the Language Center to create a language MOOC to help students who were going to pass the B1 level exam in English, to give them tips and guidelines to prepare for that exam. And that was there, but it was on a different platform. So we had to migrate it to the current platform that my university has for MOOCs, which is UNED Abierta, and we had to tweak it a little bit, adding and integrating this G-rubric tool that would be used for one of the modules. So that took the whole of 2020. And then this year we have launched and we have piloted the language MOOC. It took place between April and May. And now we are in the process of analyzing the results and seeing what improvements we can make, especially with the feedback given to students, because we have seen that the G-rubric tool still has room for improvement. So we have these three pillars then that are key in the project. We have the degree students, and they are first-year students in the degree of tourism, and they have this subject, which is English for tourism. So that's why we chose the topic sustainable tourism, because they learn about it in Unit 5 in the second semester. And one of the things they have to do is to produce a report. Imagine that their company has been asked to implement the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, and they have to read about it and draft a report based on sustainability in the field of tourism. And then we have the master's students that are the ones that are doing the subject open language learning, and they are learning about open educational resources and open technologies, and they were the ones that were to act as mentors. And then we have the MOOC that had to take place at the same time as the degree subject, which was the second semester. And in the third module, participants of the MOOC practice their writing, and both the degree subject and the MOOC have a B1 level in English, so it was perfect. Yeah. And this is a diagram showing how we organize the project. So the title of the project is in the middle. Then to the right, we have the G-rubric tool, which provides personalized automated feedback. And then the written task is exactly the same for the degree students and for the MOOC participants. And then we have this mentoring program with master students that are there to help. There's a specific forum in which degree students can post messages when they have doubts about the written task and how the G-rubric tool works. And the MOOC participants are doing exactly the same. And those that complete the MOOC, they are told how they can take this external examination in the Language Center to achieve a B1 level certificate according to the European framework. So this is just a brief description of the language MOOC. As I said, it has tips and strategies to pass this exam. And the exam, they can take it at QUIT, which is the name of our language center. And you can imagine that there in the MOOC, we get all sorts of participants. We get undergraduate students, like the ones from the degree in tourism, postgraduate students, PhD students, people that are not related to our university at all. And we were interested in this hybrid learning space in which formal and non-formal education really blends in together. So this is the structure of the MOOC, and that's the instructions for the writing practice. They had to write a report of 300 words on the topic of English for professional purposes, sustainable tourism. And there was some scaffolding because they were provided with guidelines, websites they could check, and they were directed to the G-rubric tool, in which they had 6 opportunities to submit their drafts and be given feedback. So more support materials. We created an interactive presentation using the Genially software, which guided them through all this technical side on how to use the G-rubric tool. We also created a video tutorial And this is just a screenshot on the right-hand side of the instructions. You can see the web links that they could check to produce their report. And this is the interface of the G-rubric tool. On the left-hand side, you can see the different sections, what kind of feedback they get. It was based on the linguistic side, the English writing, and also on the content. So they got feedback for the linguistic side with the lexical range that they use. For instance, you have a comment there. You may be repeating words in your answer, so you can use new stylistic resources, delete or vary some words, or simply use a new phrase. Yeah. On the right-hand side is what the student had submitted. So they got also I have to say that the tool was very demanding. So what you see in red was the percentage that they thought that was a tip. So this one was a good draft, 90%. But then the content, it's in red because it was out of 10 points, which is the kind of mark that they get when they submit assignments at my university. So it would be roughly like 60%. And it's probably because the student wasn't sticking to the different content guidelines that they had been given to include in the different paragraphs. So this is an example, the ideas. It says here, it seems that the content score is not very good. With the help of the progress charts and the vocabulary guidelines that may appear, you will be able to improve your answers. So they had progress bars with the 4 paragraphs they had to include. The first one was the introduction, relationship between tourism and SDGs. The second one, tips encouraging responsible traveling. Third one, challenges in implementing the SDGs in the company, and the conclusion. So students, as they made progress in their draft, they would see that progress bar moving towards the right, hopefully, and getting it better before they submitted it to the teacher. That's, again, an example of the feedback they were given with the vocabulary. So this drew from the corpus and database, and they were given examples of, for instance, words that would help them because they had been included in the golden answer. So how about using financial or awareness or organizational, etc., etc. And then they were also given tips about the content. Here it says, relevant concept, 2030 agenda for sustainable development and goals, etc. Yeah. So some preliminary results. We had for this piloting a total of over 400 students that were doing this subject, English for tourism. But because the G-rubric tool was an optional activity, only over 150 signed up for it, and then roughly just under 100 finished it. They did the final questionnaire. As for the MOOC participants, we had over 1,000 participants, and out of those, 600, a bit more, started the MOOC because the first activity in the MOOC was the initial questionnaire, but only like 10% of those registered completed it, which is relatively common in MOOCs. There's like a 10% success rate. And we had 2 mentors from the master's program that were monitoring the forum, both in the MOOC and in the course subject, and answering all the questions that students had related to the task and to G-rubric. So perceived effectiveness of the personalized feedback.
Elena, if you want to take questions, you should really finish.
Yeah, I'm almost done. Yeah, that's okay. Fine. So for the students, degree students, the personalized feedback wasn't that relevant, but for the MOOC participants really appreciated it. Mentor support was perceived as useful and welcoming, both for degree and MOOC participants. And then the MOOC participants showed more interest in taking this external examination because that's what initially they had signed up for, whereas the degree students really was an extra that they were not interested in. So it has been very encouraging, and there is a perceived usefulness of the tool and a positive response to the mentoring program. the master students have been brilliant, the two that participated, and we have promoted our language center through the MOOC. So all in all, we are quite happy with the initial results, and we look forward to getting to know more about data-driven learning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elena. And Daniel, are there any questions?
Thanks very much for this very interesting talk, and I still don't see any questions in